Welcome to a series of videos called English for Emerson. This series of videos is all about learning some basic English reading, writing, and communication. But you get it all on this channel is the thing. This channel is expanding. And what we go into sometimes on this channel is just about life. Probably too much. But today I'm going to do it again. So sit back and prepare to have a little bit of English instruction and a whole lot of lectures. That's basically the bottom line. We're in the restaurant. We've ordered our food. We've ordered our drinks. I'm having a small pizza with pepperoni and peppers on it and a glass of water. Now, it's very interesting. This is not part of the restaurant that I really enjoy. But what happens is after you order your food, oh, there's the ice machine. He interrupts every lesson. The waiter or the waitress is going to come around after you get your food, and they're going to ask you, how is everything? Every time. And I guess I Googled it finally on my phone because I didn't understand exactly what the situation was. But apparently, if you work in a restaurant, the industry standard is that by the time a customer has taken 2 bites of their food, or it's been 2 minutes since you gave them their food, as a waiter or a waitress, you're supposed to come around and ask them how is everything, to check in. Check in with them. How is everything? That's the industry standard. That's how they're supposed to do it. So they're going to come by. I used to kind of get annoyed by it. I'm trying to eat here. They'd always be asking me, how is everything? They got to do their job. How is everything? Here we go. We got lined paper and something to write with. And I make my capital take up the space between 3 lines. Here we go with the first letter, a capital H for how. I start with a straight line down. Going from the top line through the middle all the way to the bottom. Then I do another line over here. Not too close, not too far away. About like that. And then I put a crossbar right at the midline. Left to right. Capital H. Now, it's interesting. We've talked about this. How in the world do you make the sound ow? Well, there's a few different ways to do it. As we say in English, there's a few ways to skin a cat. There really is. But for the word how, we use an O-W. We use an O-W. We're going to make a lowercase o that's starting at the midline and down. That's a beautiful O. That might be the best one I ever did in my whole life. Then a W. From the midline on the diagonal down. Back up a ways. Back down a ways to the bottom. And then back up to the midline. Nicely done. How is everything? Do you hear the is? I hear a short I sound. Short I is the sound I. And then I hear a z. And you would think, if you were thinking logically, that would be made by a z, but it's not. A lot of times the ending z in a word is with an S, and that's the case here. S can make the Z sound. We work it around. Nicely done. Boy, you know what I have to say? I don't know how this lesson's going to go, but so far my letters are beautiful today. Just beautiful. How is everything? Next word starts with an E. Eh. A short E is eh. Everything. I gotta connect that a little better. Ev. Can you hear the next letter? Ev. I hear a V. V. The V. I'm going from the midline to the bottom line on these lowercase letters. Ever. That's going to be ER. Ever. E-R. Every. How am I going to make that E sound? Every. Believe it or not, that's going to be with a Y. Lowercase y starts at the midline, diagonal down to the bottom, and then my favorite, I get to go below the bottom line. I just love to go down there. I just love it. Every thing. Thing. T-H-I-N-G. Remember, the T-H makes the sound where you put your tongue between your teeth. Thing. T-H-I-N-G. T. H. I-N-G. I-N-G makes the sound ing. Everything. Love to do the lowercase g and make that tail like that. I just love hanging it down there. How is everything? I swear to, I tell you, I'm not joking. They're going to come around and they're going to ask. And I didn't know about this because I've never worked in a restaurant, but I met somebody who worked in restaurants. And we went out to dinner. And we're sitting there, we order our food. And they start looking around. Where are they? Where are they? It's been more than 2 minutes. It's been more than 2 minutes. Where are they? I said, what's the deal here? They said, oh, in the restaurant business, you got to come by. You're supposed to come by and check and see how we're doing. They're not doing their job. They're not doing their job. You know, I didn't know about this, but I guess you're supposed to come around. And every certain number of minutes that pass, you're supposed to come around and check on the people to see how their experience is going. Now, when they come by and ask me, how is everything? If the food is just okay, I say everything's fine, or I say it's okay, or everything's good. I usually don't make issues for the waitress or the waiter. I usually don't have issues, but you know, I've heard that from people who work in restaurants that a lot of people who come into restaurants, not a lot, maybe a quarter of people. That'd be if you had 2 or 3 people out of 10 are kind of difficult customers. Maybe not even a quarter, maybe 10%. And as I say in life, 10% of the people, like 1 out of every 10 people, causes 90% of the problems. A very, very few people in life are causing most of the problems. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's so true. 10% of people cause 90% of problems. But if the food is really good, and let's just assume that this pizza is excellent that I'm having, this pepperoni and pepper small pizza, I'm assuming it's going to be great. And so what I'm going to say is, I'm just going to say it's fantastic. Okay? And that's what we're going to write right here. It's fantastic. Starts with an I. Capital I. I'm going to answer the question right now. I'm just going to go for it. Capital I. And I got to write kind of small here to remember because I got to fit in. It's fantastic. All here on the bottom line. It's going to be tough. Apostrophe. You know about the apostrophe now. That's going to shorten up it is into it's. It's. No, wait a minute. I did it wrong. I'm sorry about that. Get rid of that apostrophe. That's a mistake. We got to go T next. Sorry about that. You'll just have to make do. You might have to start over that one. I messed up. It's apostrophe Yes. It's is short for it is. It's fantastic. That's going to be F. A. N. T. Fantas. Fantas. Do you hear the AS next? Fantas. Fantastic. That's going to be TIC. Fantastic. Beautiful. Beautiful. It's fantastic. Fantastic, man. How is everything? It's fantastic. Well, the waitress will be happy to hear that. Or the waiter will be happy to hear that. It's fantastic. They'll probably be happy to hear it because they think that if it's fantastic, they'll be getting a good tip. And we'll talk about that in our next lesson. Tip. Well, maybe not, because we might order dessert. Yeah, we got to order dessert in our next lesson. So, or maybe, anyway, we got to deal with the dessert before we pay. How is everything? It's fantastic. Now, I got to say something. This is where we get the lecture. the life lecture here. This is important. This is important. You know what's interesting about going out to restaurants is that this is traditionally what you do when you're dating someday. When you go out and you take some, if you go out and date somebody, like to get a boyfriend or a girlfriend, do you follow me here? You're going to probably end up going to a restaurant. And you just think about it. When you go out on a date with somebody, what are the things that people do? They go to the movies, or maybe they'll go play miniature golf or pool, shoot pool. Maybe they'll go ride bumper cars at the amusement park. But pretty much, even if they do all those other things, usually they're going to go out to eat. Now, why is it that when we date, we always go out to eat with people? I'm talking, that's just how it is. You always go out to eat with somebody when you're dating. Well, why is that? Well, because this is a really good way to see what this person's really like. Because the way people treat the waiter and how they deal with the restaurant is usually, it gives you a very good indication about what they're going to be like in life. Like if you were to marry them or have a girlfriend or boyfriend, how they deal with the restaurant, how they deal with the waitress, how they treat those people is going to tell you a lot about them. For example now, if you go out on a date with somebody and they're very demanding of the waitress, like, for example, if the food comes and you both order a hamburger and the person you're on a date with says, "What's this? This isn't what I ordered. I don't want this." Well, that person's is kind of difficult. Or how about if the person you're on the date with, the waitress comes to the table and says, "How are you today?" And the person you're on the date with says, "I'm doing fine. How are you doing today? How is your day going? Have you had a lot of customers today? Have you been busy?" Well, that's a good sign, because the person that you're with is taking interest in the waitress or the waiter. Well, that's the kind of person that would be nice to be around, who cared about the waitress and how their day was going. That's a good sign. How about if you go out with somebody and the waitress comes and says, and let's say you ordered pizza, and you're eating the pizza, and the waitress comes over, and the person you're with says, "Oh, I don't like my pizza. The crust is greasy, and the pepperoni is too salty, and these peppers are not fresh, and the cheese, I think this is artificial cheese. This is the worst cheese I've ever had, and my Coca-Cola has too much ice in it. I'd like you to take it back and bring me one with no ice." And they just have all these issues. Well, what does that tell you about that person? I mean, I'm sorry to go off here, but this is the truth. Well, that person in life is probably going to be very demanding and have a lot of issues. Let's say you go out with somebody and they have a lot of fun with the waitress and make a lot of jokes, and they're having a good time. Well, that person's probably going to be fun to be around. Someone who doesn't even care about the waitress and is, just on their phone the whole time, doesn't even look up and say hi, just is on their phone the whole time, texting, watching videos the whole time. Well, they're probably going to ignore you. They're ignoring the waitress. That's how they're going to treat people in life. I'm telling you. The reason why we all in life go out to a restaurant with somebody for a date is that gives you a very good sense about what that person's going to be like to be around. That's why people go out to dates at restaurants. That's my little life lesson right there. And it would be wise to watch how that person that you're dating interacts with the waitress and everybody, because you got to pay attention. Do you follow me? It's good to pay attention to these things. Personally, when I was growing up, and I think it's a lot about a person's family and how they're raised, I remember that when we went out, we didn't go out to restaurants a lot when I was a kid, but my mom and my dad were always very polite to the waitress and the waiter. They were always very polite. They weren't demanding, and they didn't give them a hard time. So that's what we learned when we were kids growing up from Grandpa Chuck and Grandma Sue, to be nice to the waiter and the waitress and not be real demanding, and to be polite. And if I can tell you this much, oh man, if we went out to a restaurant when we were kids and we were mean to the waitress, or if we would have been real demanding, Grandpa Chuck, he would have given us the eye. He would have lowered his glasses down. He had his glasses on. He would have seriously, it would not have been good. He would have lowered the glasses down and given us an eye for that one. So we learn to be polite to the waitresses and the waiters and not be demanding. The only time I ever remember, and I'm going to be done soon, don't worry, but I remember one time that we went to a McDonald's. And we didn't go out to McDonald's very often, hardly ever, but we did go to McDonald's one time. And I remember that my little sister, Jenny, she liked to have tartar sauce on her hamburger. That's how she liked it. But a hamburger at McDonald's did not come with tartar sauce. So my dad said, "Listen," he said to the person who worked there, "my daughter likes to have tartar sauce on her hamburger." And usually, if we ever went anywhere, the restaurant waitress or the person who was taking the order said, "No problem. We'll put tartar sauce on the hamburger, no problem." We went to this McDonald's one time and the person at the counter says, "No, we're not doing it. Tartar sauce doesn't come on a hamburger. It comes on the fish sandwich. No, you can't have it." And my dad said, "You got to be kidding me. My daughter likes to have tartar sauce on her hamburger. It's right there. You just put it on." And the person at the counter said, "No, it doesn't come with it." My Grandpa Chuck said, "I need to speak to the manager." And the manager came up. We couldn't believe it. Nothing. This I'll never forget it. And the manager said, "No, The hamburger doesn't come with tartar sauce, sir. It only comes on the fish sandwich. Oh my gosh. That was the only time I ever remember my dad, Grandpa Chuck, or my mom getting irritated with anybody at a restaurant when they wouldn't let my little sister Jenny have tartar sauce on her hamburger. So I think what ended up happening is my dad just ordered a fish sandwich that came with tartar sauce, and then he took it off the fish sandwich with the knife, and then he put it on the hamburger for little Jenny. I think that's what happened. My Grandpa Chuck was not pleased. I remember. That's the only time I remember them ever having an issue at a restaurant with anybody. Very important to go out with people if you date someday, to go out to a restaurant a few times with somebody. Because I guarantee you, it's so important. The way they treat the waitress or the waiter is ultimately how they're going to treat you. Do they have fun with them? Or do they ignore them? Are they demanding of them? It's so important. So important. Pay attention. Okay. We're going to come back to the restaurant next time and order dessert. I hope that you've made it to the end of this lesson. And we'll see you next time on English for Emerson.